Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. session of the 2025 Open Simulator Community Conference. In this session, we're pleased to introduce the presentation, Cultivate, Collaborate, Celebrate, and Innovate. Our speakers are Lisa Laxton and Frank Ruloff. Lisa Laxton is the founder of Infinite Metaverse Alliance and president of Laxton Consulting, with experience providing various solutions for education, research, business, and defense clients. You may have seen her around the Hyperverse as Shalenaires, busy building content or engaged in testing, but she's available to anyone in the Open Simulator community that's interested in collaborating to advance virtual worlds technology and or to improve accessibility by design. Frank Ruloff is a retired senior systems engineer from Thales, Netherlands, with expertise in training and simulation. He led research and innovation activities related to open simulator technology with the Thales Global Company, using multiple open simulator grids that are focused on user needs. And he continues on project efforts during his retirement with his collaborations with IMA. Please check out the website found at conference.opensimulator.org for speaker bios, details of sessions, and the full schedule of events. This session is being live streamed and recorded, so if you have questions or comments during the session, you may send tweets to @OpenSimCC with the hashtag pound OSCC05. Welcome, everyone, and let's begin the session.
Thank you for that great introduction. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. If you're joining us, we're happy to have you here. And thanks for having us here again. And congrats to the team OSCC on 13 years. We have a lot to share this year, and we'll have time for Q&A after the slide presentation. Let's get into it. Infinite Metaverse Alliance Group's focus is driven by four actions: cultivate, collaborate, celebrate, and innovate. We engage the Hypergrid community. We support teamwork by fostering alliances. We celebrate the people behind the avatars. And we innovate where gaps exist. OSFest and EchoVoice are both active IMA projects that we'll discuss today. A bit about OSFest. Big shout out to our HG Fireside Chat attendees, our OSFest volunteers and sponsors, and various IMA contributors and testers. You know who you are. Thank you very much. Kudos to the core devs and to Mike Chase of OSNGC. The images on this slide are from those who contributed content and or helped with costs. Avacon, Bridgemere, Rosa Alexey, Ellie Cherry, OpenSim World, Beyond Zen Life, YKJ Empower You Nation, Virtual Business Hub Grid, Infinite Metaverse Alliance, and of course, my company, Laxton Consulting. OSFest began as Avatar Fest, then it became OpenSim Fest, and then it lost its host. We renewed the tradition in 2022 as OSFest, an annual celebration of our creative Hypergrid community. This year, we set new goals, then implemented a new approach to evolve OSFest into a true Hypergrid celebration taking place on mini grids. Banker Ebor created a new logo that was a perfect fit, and many thanks to Maria for helping us get the word out. Here's a look at how it went. Of the scheduled events with active participation, 65% were hosted on the OSFest grid and 35% were hosted on other grids. Now, these included Paradise Lagoon on Bridgemere, Damour Enterprises, Rock City, and All Greaters Vets on DigiWorld, Cooper Swizzle's Experiences, Kitely Event Center, and October World on Kitely, Event Plaza, Lovely, and Peaceful Landing on OS Grid, Yellowstone, which was a new club on 10th Dimension Grid, and Abraham Entertainment Venues and Great Plains on Wolf Territories Grid. Event types included music, tours, readings, games, activities, and fashion. Looking at the breakdown of the daily event schedule, Sundays and Mondays were primarily stage-focused music events. Weekdays typically featured more hypergrid and tour events on other grids. New this year, all music events were relayed to the Zero Hub radio station, which is an IMA project embedded on the calendar website, and were simulcast to other regions via relays and hypergrid regions via remote relays. There were many new innovations needed to support this change, so we focused on development and scripting to support our new approach. First, we needed a new live event calendar development. You'll see an image of that on this slide. And we wanted it to have the necessary features to support both local and hypergrid events with in-world integration. In that process, we implemented IMA's Zero Hub Radio calendar integration with that and developed the new and integrated a new Hypergrid simulcast system, replace the one we used 4 years ago. So some of the other images on this slide show some just-in-time event-related scripting, synchronous sequential event streaming for the OSFest Zen Wellness region and the Twin Palms Drive-In. It would sync up when new avatars arrive instead of everybody having to stop and start together. We did a dynamic fashion show lighting to enhance the sequin fashion that was shown. And I created a master or mistress of ceremonies platform to provide a bit more realism so that it would be easier to start and stop the speaking animation. We did a Aurora Borealis with beats per minute music synchronization. You see that in the upper right. Next to that, just to the left of it, you see a Burning Woman simulation. We enhanced that to employ the integrated smoke and fire so it would climb up the structure over time and fall with the pieces falling activated by the physics engine. So we also used AI-assisted resource evaluation, data collection, and chart generation for even this presentation. The total lines of new code developed 18,651 lines of code plus the engineering specifications needed and documentation needed to develop those lines of code and, of course, the testing time. Here's we can show a summary stats after that data review. New and returning participants had exhibits and stores on the OSFest grid, with some extending the experience to their home grids. These included shopping, freebies, and fashion, a mind game with a prize that was quite interesting, and avatars against violence against women, blending our virtual world with our offline world. Many styles of art were shown, plus there was a new art gallery. There were generative AI characters, drivable vehicles, interactive builds with animated mesh and NPCs. Upcoming events around the hypergrid were promoted, regions were promoted. They had interactive educational exhibits that was quite interesting from Stephen Zootfly. Competitive zombie hunting, of course, everyone usually loves that one, and some guided wellness activities. That was a little bit new where we incorporated content, Creative Commons content, where you can learn Tai Chi from the videos, or you can learn seated yoga from the videos, or you can listen to experts from UVA School of Medicine help you relax through mindfulness approaches or learn to meditate with guided body scans. So that scripting that I talked about is what supports that. So here at the OSCC in Expo Zone 4, booth 19, we have viewing screens of images taken during OSFest 2025, so please do visit. Some interesting data points were gathered from complex aggregate of differently structured database queries, and I was able to determine the number of content creators and contributors of all the content that was read around the grid for future attribution purposes. I'd like to write a script that would take that data and show that live in the region so that it changes as new content is read. Now, the number of unknown creators never having visited the grid was greatly reduced to 22 versus hundreds in the past. There could be a number of reasons for that. One could be we have more visitors. The other could be we have more people creating their own content. Analysis show the OSFest grid usage remains active and consistent with the prior year attendance. An estimated hypergrid event attendance on the other grid was based on direct observation, while the other data was based on AI-assisted database queries. Foreign avatars that visited the OSFest grid came from 104 unique grids, which is around 25% of the active grids, according to Maria. So the total regions on 7 different grids was 23, where a total of 95 events were hosted for OSFest 2025. And this is consistent with the prior year OSFest when all events were on the OSFest grid itself. So we hope to see more hypergrid participation increase as we fine tune the new event calendar application for 2026. Our Docker architecture facilitates a dynamic resource allocation which eases grid management efforts while balancing the load via the region isolation structure itself. Now, as seen in earlier years, a recompile of scripted objects after bringing them in from other grids reduces our server load by half. A lack of built-in Y-engine tools makes administration of this type of event challenging, given the amount of unvetted content. The OSFest live calendar needs more resources, so I'm moving it from WebSpace to the grid server in 26. Zero Hub Radio needs custom code for handling dynamic event stream scheduling and simulcast system integration. So that's more code work I'll need to do. The new stage monitor script needs some code work due to group role limitations until groups in Open Simulator are improved. When exhibitors and merchants are consolidated on mainland regions with the event region right in the center, bad scripts negatively affected the user experience. A return to a hypergrid layout is planned for 26. Some imported scripts created memory leaks and server loading issues, and these are specifically associated with excessive server calls outside of state entry, use of LL sleep beyond 200 milliseconds, improperly terminated timers, unnecessary open sensors and listeners, race conditions, and unchecked list growth. Many of these issues exist in scripts found online. So AIs often write bad scripts, which is something a lot of people are doing right now as a result because the internet is their reference. That's where it learns, and there's really not a lot of good updated scripts out there. Intervention was required in severe cases due to the mainland layout and unvetted scripts. So in 26, we intend to offer a vetted script library for people to use. We had some great hypergrid community feedback. Cost did not change even after greatly reducing the size of OSFest Grid. We do need more volunteers and social media gurus. The social media algorithm changes combined with a scattered audience of hypergrid users really increases outreach difficulty. In-world greeting as well as marketing and promotion is needed to increase participation regardless of event location. AI hasn't been helpful with these aspects so far, and we hope that changes. However, creating the new live event calendar application, extending participation to the hypergrid, and increasing performer exposure was positively received. Grid communities, performers, creators, builders, artists, and merchants all benefit as a whole from the new OSFest Hypergrid approach. One participant said, "Can't wait for next year. We need to get started sooner so we can plan and build." Thank you, Franz. We can always use help. So here's what we have planned for 2026. After 2 years with themes and 2 years without themes, we found participation is significantly greater when we have a theme. So we will start planning shows and gather suggestions for a theme in January. The 2026 primary goal is flip the script, 65% hypergrid events and 35% OSFest grid events. You see, we have tentative dates October 9th, 2026 through October 24th, 2026 for this next year's OSFest. We chose those time frames because it has the least scheduling conflict with major events that happen on other grids. Our secondary goal is a grid upgrade to facilitate more exhibits and stores and support PBR. The 2026 outreach goal is to increase the hypergrid outreach and engagement. That would be wonderful if we could get some help with the promotion and marketing. In 2025, the AMA group also continued our partial visitor board script updates. We had Hypergate script updates. I still need to send that update to Outworld. We're working to evolve the OSWS radio project, and I'm working on the software engineering for ImaBox as a project. And of course, EchoVoice development and testing. And this work was significant. We have some of these gifts in the gift boxes here on the stage, as well as landmarks to our booth and to the OSFest booth. Frank, can you share with us the exciting progress toward a prototype for EchoVoice?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much for all of you for being here. And I think the talk that Lisa did shows that the OpenSim community as a community can thrive and can do great things. Okay, let's go over to EchoVoice. First slide, please. Okay, this is the EchoVoice system. And of course, there are a number of known applications in there, OpenSim itself, the viewer, and a voice over IP that used to be either free speech or VVox. And the system itself, the design and the architecture of the system is based on the fact that we try to minimize any changes that need to be done to either OpenSim and the viewer, so that it runs as more or less independent of these systems. What does that mean? We have two major components in there. We use the region module as an entry into OpenSim. We developed that region module that has an administrative part, which supplies all the avatar information as well as the regions, the parcels to the server bridge, which then communicates with the administrative part of the voice of IP that is connected. In our case, our first one will be the mumble server. We also have a viewer, and we don't want to touch the viewer at all. That is a chosen thing, because as well as for OpenSim as for the viewer, it will be difficult for us to get changes in there. So we try to use the protocols as is. This means that, for instance, for the viewer, is optimized at the moment to use the VVox protocol. And the part that is in the region module, the agent part, as you can see on the picture, and the viewer interface, which is part of the EchoVoice client, will use the VVox protocol to communicate. So we don't have to change anything into the viewer. The only thing that we are doing is piggybacking data on the existing protocol of the viewer so that we can handle that in the EchoVoice client. So the viewer interface as part of the EchoVoice client is also called SL Voice because the viewer knows SL Voice and not the EchoVoice client. And we also have then this interface will communicate with a dedicated voice over IP interface. Can you, next slide please. So what we want to, one of the objective is that we want to have a multi-VoIP approach. So by changing the way that we look at the voice communication between the server and the viewer, so we more or less separate that from OpenSim and the viewer. And we also want to be able to have, okay, one voice over IP grid-wide, but also the possibility to have one voice over IP provider per region. So these definitions will go into OpenSim.ini or region.ini and will be read by the region module. And the data will then be transferred through the viewer to the EchoVoice client. In this case, VSVOC we cannot use because we can create a VoIP interface based on the fact if we have documentation, an API or documentation how it works. We don't have that for SL Voice for VVox itself. Otherwise, we could create an interface for it. So VVox we can do mumble, maybe we can do TeamSpeak and other things that are so open source that we can create an application for it. But we still can go back to the VVox settings if we do not use the region module and the entries in the ini files. Next slide, please. So this is a more in-depth picture of the server bridge itself. The server bridge consists of three independent processes. It's written in Python, but as some of you all know, Python is a sequential language, so most or less do something sequential. But Python, the newest Python versions also have a process independent, so that the three processes can run on different cores if necessary. And the reason for that is that, well, it depends on how big the grid is, so how much information needs to be processed, and you want to have the interface to OpenSim but also to the VoIP independent from each other. So what does these subcomponents do? Well, as it said, the OS interface will monitor the information that is coming from the admin part in the region module. So that are avatars, that are regions, parcels, and that sort of information. That will be put into the next component, which is the monitoring and control component. Databases in there that holds that all that information and its relations. And from the that component, that information is sent to the VoIP interface, and there it will send the commands and data that is necessary, for instance, to set up in the mumble server the channels and that connected to the regions and the parcels. In all these components, in the two components for the OS interface and also for the VoIP interface, are also is also code to make interfaces robust. That means that if OpenSim falls away or the VoIP server falls away, then it will, and it restart, it will automatically recover and set all the connections again and build it up again. So that is what the EchoVoice server bridge will do. Next slide, please. The EchoVoice client bridge is a bit more difficult. So the agent part in the region module will handle the protocol with the viewer, more or less. So if you log in, then a communication starts between the viewer and the agent part. That is quite complex. And it took me quite some time to find out exactly, because I needed to know where on which data I can superimpose the data that is needed by the EchoVoice client without breaking the protocol of the viewer and to the old SL voice. So the agent parts starts up because the viewer will communicate certain information, and then the viewer will start up the SL voice, which is then instead of the VVox SL voice is the EchoVoice client SL voice. That will complete the protocol, and it will, dependent on the information that is piggybacked on from the agent part, start a voice over IP client, a real one. So this means that if you have defined that correctly, then it will find when you start up and in which parcel you are, which voice over IP server you will have, and it will automatically start the voice interface to that mumble server. And when you go to another and you have region coverage, then you can start to another voice over IP interface. So one important aspect here is that we do not change the viewer and we use the VVox protocol of the viewer as if we have a VVox, but we piggyback it with all kinds of information that we use in the EchoVoice client to set up and to start the right EchoVoice client. Next slide, please. So how far are we with the development? The region module is done. The server bridge is also done. The viewer interface is also done, except for the part that is some parts there is some parts in the communication with the viewer that not completely is working correctly. So we have some work to do there. The VoIP interface, so that is a application that is creating the interface with the real VoIP. We have that for mumble, so it works for mumble. Only we did not close the loop yet between the server bridge, mumble, and the VoIP over IP interface. So we can start it. We can see that the interface is started. We can use the mumble client to see that there is an entry into the mumble server. But since we didn't have the other side running yet, both at the same time for testing, there is no channel to connect to. So that is not there. There is something that we had to change during development, because in the first iteration of what we did for the VoIP interface, we thought that we could use Pi Mumble for that, but it shows that Pi Mumble doesn't have spatial sound. So we had to change that and start the real Mumble client, the official Mumble client, because it has a link interface that we can use to set up the audio. We're testing this at the moment and doing it further. So I hope that we can get very soon to a working system. How do we test it? We have a number of, we run it on a Proxmox hypervisor. We have 3 LXCs, one for the mumble server, one for the for OpenSim containing the region module, and one for the robust part of OpenSim. The testing, the viewer itself, SL voice, and or more or less the EchoVoice client runs on a Windows 11 PC, and with that we do the testing. If we go, if we have the basic loops running, so it means that we we have the whole thing of, okay, I log in and I get connected to the right channel in the mumble servers. That's correct. Then we're going to set up multiple LXC containers with more OpenSim instances to see how that works, and also to test the multi VoIP approach. Next slide, please. So what are we going to do next year? Well, we're finishing the VoIP interface of the client, and then we're going to do testing, a lot of testing. And as I said, we integrated two pieces. Oh no, I didn't say that. Sorry. If you've seen in the picture, there is one region module with two pieces: the admin part and the agent part. Now there are still two separate region modules in an OpenSim. So I combined that to one region module because they can be combined, but it was more convenient to start separately for the client than integrated in the original one. Then we need to streamline the code and make sure that parameters are in files, and that sort of software engineering type of things make it robust against failures, to be able to restart things, that sort of stuff. And then we work further on other documentation to get a full documentation. As we heard yesterday, the Rust viewer, that there was a lot, they put a lot of work in putting the protocols on to get the protocols working. I had the same experience because it is not always clear, although the source code is there for some parts, how it really works and what the message contents are. So I found that out too. So I'm going to create a document on the VVox protocol itself, so that maybe for other people that want to use it, there's a little bit more depth, so they can find out what to do. Next sheet, please. So after 26, well, we're creating an interface for Mumble at the moment. But yeah, we can look at having other interfaces like TeamSpeak, maybe WebRTC or whatever, to connect to the VoIP, the EchoVoice system. There needs to be a little change in the EchoVoice bridge, because now it is one Python application or set of Python applications, and we need to make the VoIP part also independent. The client in the client are two on Windows running two execs, one for the SL voice and one for the VoIP interface, so that you easy can connect to them what you want. So you don't need to put all the possibilities into your program. If you say I have a grid with only the mumble server, then you put only the mumble interface in there, and then you can connect. So, but that is now a little bit one piece in the server bridge. So it means that if you have to multiple interface, you have to make that application bigger by adding them. And I want to make the same kind of architecture that I did for the client. And of course, a lot of testing, especially for the multi-VoIP requirements in different configurations, to see if it all works and works correctly. Well, I think that finishes my part of the application. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Frank. That was just really interesting stuff for people on the tech side, and exciting stuff for people on the non-tech side to have choices to potentially integrate FreeSwitch, Discord, Jitsi, TeamSpeak, or Mumble, whichever they prefer to use in their environment. We're open to questions and answers. I have one question that came in already about the SceneGate viewer, and I forgot to mention this in the slide. I'm glad you mentioned it, Frank. Now that the Docker architecture research that we've been doing with the OSFest grid is done, we have a good handle on all of that. Then we'll get back to Seagate updates in 2026. I could always use some help if anyone wants to contribute to some of those code changes to bring it up to par with Firestorm. Seagate is a viewer that has a few different features uh, that really are focused on helping users who are new, reduce the onboarding, reduce the cognitive load of when you open the viewer and there's all these features and like, oh my God, this is too complicated. I don't want to deal with it sort of thing. Seagate starts in simple mode, but it does have all the normal build features. You have to go to the preferences. You'll find a mode button, and from there you select extended mode and then restart the viewer, and voila, you have all of your advanced tools. Does anyone else have any questions about either OSFest or the EchoVoice work that we talked about?
While we're waiting to see if any more questions come in, I would like to point out that there are people who have volunteered to help you out. Very early in the presentation, Franz reached out and said would like to help with the script library.
Yes, we appreciate that. We've also had some requests to um, work with the Virtual Education Journal, and they have a community topic for the winter coming up, and they'd like to help out getting more words out to the rest of the community about what's happening and what's going on with OSFest and how they can participate. That would be great, Roxy. Thank you.
Okay, we've talked about marketing and some technical offers. Are there ways that people that may be just sitting here in the audience or become aware of it help you out in a grassroots kind of way?
Oh yeah,
Well,
we would love to talk about that.
yeah, well, for the Echo Voice itself, um, at some point, if you want to have multiple VoIPs attached, there needs to be these voice interface applications need to be built. So I'm building it now for Mumble. But if the whole system works, it's maybe somebody else wants to build it for TeamSpeak or for Discord or for, and in that part we can use help. Um, so that would be in the future if people want to think about creating this application for a interface with TeamSpeak or with Discord, because it's work. It's quite it's a lot of work. Sometimes it depends a little bit on the API of uh, of the the VoIP. How accessible is it from an application? Do we have documentation for it? And it could be not so much work, but it could also be a lot of work. So it would be nice if multiple people would join and take uh, each of them as a task or as a project. And of course, when the system becomes more or less finished with development, we also need a lot of testing to do and to see if everything works correctly. So testers at some point in time are also very welcome to help and to assist.
As Ubit pointed out yesterday, we also need to fine tune the license that it would be offered under. We know the OSNGC people and the core devs have both said that they would consider integrating the EchoVoice project into OpenSim as long as the licenses are compatible. Before I forget, there are gift boxes here on the front of the stage. In the gift boxes are four different items. Some of them are from the OSFest 2025, and some have been updated that you can utilize in your own grids. You won't be able to use them here because you need specific OSSL permissions to handle that. If you want to visit either our booth or the OSFest booth, the landmark pin there will give you 2 landmarks.
Yeah, I want to say one thing more.
Yeah.
As I put in the presentation, we kept the viewers as it is. So all the viewers have the VVox protocol inside, but on if EchoVoice really is going to be used, it would be a good idea to see if the DLL that is now in every viewer for the VVox protocol could be changed to something else, because the VVox protocol is terribly difficult in the sense that
Mhm.
there's a lot of that go wrong, and you need a lot of messages forth and back and forth and back to get everything working. So,
Right.
and for EchoVoice, that's not really needed. So, in time, if it could be maybe also that the viewers change their one of the DDLs to get a more simple interface protocol.
And I just put up this last slide here. For those of you who are interested in helping out, we do meet every couple of weeks with the IMA group, and these are the questions that we'll focus on for 2026. But the key factor here is how can we help you? So if you'd like to get involved, please get in touch with me or just show up at one of our meetings.
And I apologize if
I
this is a more elementary question, but there may be some people that have come into this conference for the first time who may not know what IMA is. Can you give a very brief rundown of what IMA is?
Sure. Sure. The Infinite Metaverse Alliance was formed back in 2016. Our primary focus is it's just a lot of people who have a common mission to advance virtual world technology and synthetic environments. So we work on looking for gaps that need support, gaps that need development that are not being handled by existing groups like the core devs or some of the viewer dev projects. So the SceneGate viewer evolved from that, and our focus is on accessibility and usability. So if those fit your mission, we'd love to have you join us. Anyone can get involved in IMA. And I agree with Joyce about the benthic rust viewer. I first found out about it yesterday, and I hope to reach out more with Puffball. I believe we can do some collaboration. And for those of you who are not aware, there is a remake of the Lumia viewer is happening. It's called Link Point. There is a release on GitHub, and I am going to be testing that as well. Uh, it's very promising as an Android application, but there is also a progressive web app demonstration that I would like to test, and we'll see how well that works. What I can see so far, because of course, you need to make some changes on the grid to be able to accept connectivity. So lots happening. Love what's happening with AI, and I'm happy to share some more about that on the panel later today. Are there any more questions?
Joyce is asking if you can share a link to the Lumia GitHub repo.
Yeah. Let me see if I can bring that up. There we go. I believe I shared this with a couple of people yesterday, but I was digging into it last night and saw the PWA and I got excited.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, so let me throw out some up
Yeah, we've
here.
got a little bit, not a little bit, but just a couple minutes left. So if you have any closing remarks you'd like to fit in before we close?
Yeah, yeah. So the gift boxes you'll find updated and new Creative Commons items from IMA. You can become testers. Feedback is welcome. We'd like to know if something is not working, if anything is broken, without having to go through a formal process of a Mantis bug report. It's for everyone to test, not just the tech people. The slides from this are available on slideshare.net. That's the link to that. If you need to reach either one of us, Frank on Discord is Frank_Ruloff, or me, Shalene. I am more often on that avatar account on Discord, so that would be the way to reach me. If you prefer, you can reach either of us via email. Here we have links to volunteer, learn more about our project, join the IMA Outpost Discord, join the OSFest Discord, check out our YouTube. We put up the first video for this year. There'll be another one coming as soon as I get the rest of the images in. And we do have a Facebook page that you can follow when we do OSFest updates. I always make sure they get posted to that Facebook. We'll be in Expo Zone 3, Booth 4 at the break if anybody would like to join us. Otherwise, thank you all for being here and participating in what we're contributing back to the community.
And we
Yes,
thank
thank you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you. All right. Thank you to Lisa Laxton and Frank Ruloff for an informative and interesting presentation. And as a reminder to our audience, you will want to check out conference at opensimulator.org to see what is coming up on the conference schedule. You won't want to miss our next session, which will begin at 8:30 a.m. in this keynote region and is entitled Metaculture equals Metagaming plus Integrated Knowledge Infrastructures. Also, we encourage you to visit the OSCC 25 Poster Expo in the OSCC Expo 3 region to find accompanying information on presentations and explore the Hypergrid Tour resources in the OSCC Expo 2 region, along with sponsor and crowdfunder booths located throughout all of the OSCC Expo regions. Thank you again to our speakers and our audience.